It's great to be together and to worship God together. And let's say thanks again for the worship team. What a great job they did this morning. Super appreciate it. And got to get my slideshow going and all my notes out here. And we have been in a series entitled Pray Like Jesus. And it is a great privilege to learn to pray like Jesus prayed. And we need that. We need to be, as a Christian, as believers, to learn how to walk near God and pray the way the Lord did. And the way this got started is some disciples who grew up praying. I'm going to move some of this paraphernalia here. Okay, there we go. There we go. Yeah. They heard Jesus pray. And they had grown up praying. They had heard a lot of people pray. They'd been taught how to pray, but something about the way Jesus prayed was different. And I would like you to, for a minute, imagine if you had a chance to go out and pray with Jesus, what that might be like. And so that is what we're doing in our series. And the title of today's prayer is the Gethsemane Prayer, the great prayer that Jesus prayed at Gethsemane. You know, a few years ago, some of us, and Wade is included in the story, had a bright idea. Now, we occasionally have that, right? We had a few bright ideas in there. But our bright idea was to go rafting down the Arkansas River. That's a good idea. Now, the reason we thought we could pull this off is because a few of us had already done it successfully once or twice. And therefore, about 10 or 12 of us thought, well, we could go and get rafts and raft down the Arkansas River. And Mike Matoyer was there, in fact. I see him nodding his head back there. He was one of the successful commanders of the trip. I'll get to my part. And so we all got on a boat, and we started off rafting down the Arkansas River, and it was a sunny day, and it was pretty, and I'd never been rafting before. I'm not much of a swimmer, and I'm sort of a sinker, in fact. And but I was enjoying it. The sun was out, and I thought to myself, this is really cool. And of course, I had a few kind of concerning questions about, well, what are the rapids like? And, oh, don't worry about it. It's all good. You know, it's no problem. So we got, you know, as the trip was going along, I came to the unfortunate realization that our boat had a leak in it. So it was getting kind of squishy as we were going down the river. So I thought to myself, no, I wonder if I should be concerned about that. Nah. And then, you know, our captain of our boat, and I won't mention his name, I'll protect his reputation here. And he had his position of the boat, so I was at the front of the boat in this raft, and I was sort of sitting like riding a horse kind of on the raft there. And I'm like, now, you sure I'm going to stay on here? Oh, yeah, no problem. So we're coming down the rapids, and we're getting to the worst section of the river, about 150 yards from the rapids, and the biggest rapid in the river. And so he goes like, okay, get ready. I'm like, oh, I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready, but I hope I'm ready. And we hit the rapid, and our deflating boat took on first of all, we went over the wrong way over the rapid, so we went directly over the rapid. And that was wrong. And it folded in half, kind of a taco shell style. Just push it. And unfortunately, I was in the front, and I was kind of like a human cannonball. Put the big dude in the back, put the little folks in the front. But I kind of, like a human cannonball, wiped out about most of our raft, and we all went into the river together. And I come out of we've got about 150 yards worth of rapids in front of us, and I say to myself, okay, I'm going to get back in the boat. That's the right solution. So I kind of paddle quickly, and I grab onto the boat, and our stalwart captain looks at me and goes, get away from the boat. And you're going to get yourself hurt there. I'm like, whoa. And then, woo, there went the joyride through the rapids. And I was kind of pinwheeling my way through the rapids, kind of hitting rocks. And first time down way under the water, I'm like, whoo, I'm not liking this so much. Because I can't really swim. And so, whoosh, I'm out. Good. Boom, second time down under the water. I'm like, ooh, man, I'm really not liking this. Third time down under the water, I'm like, Jesus! Help me! Now, when I was doing that, there were a few thoughts in my head. First of all, I was like, why did I trust this crazy captain of mine? But it wasn't Wade. And then I was like, how do I get out of here? And it struck me how powerful the current was. And how I was basically helpless getting through those rapids. It struck me that, I could die. It's like as I'm getting pushed way down to the bottom of the Arkansas River here, it's like I could get stuck down here and not come back. This could turn out badly for me today. But fortunately, and then finally the thought occurred to me, there's only one way out of this, and that's through it. And sometimes our lives are a little bit like that. We're sort of floating along on a sunny day, and everything's looking great, and suddenly life takes a turn, sort of a chain of events that we're really not expecting. And we find ourselves kind of like me, kind of trying to tread water. And there are times when maybe it doesn't come out as good as it came out for us that day. That we just sort of had a eventful trip through the rapids and came out on the other side. Maybe tragedy strikes. Things that you absolutely were not counting on. Things that super challenge your faith. Or maybe you find yourself in the middle of a circumstance today as you've come today that it's like, I don't know how to get out of this. Maybe you feel like I felt in that current. This current's strong. And I do not know how to get out of this. And this is so much stronger than me. And I need help. And you say to yourself, I wish I could just leap out of this. But I can't. The only way out of this circumstance is to go through this circumstance. That's the situation that Jesus finds himself in the Garden of Gethsemane. We'll start there. If you turn your Bible, please, over to Matthew, the 26th chapter, and we'll begin there. The current of Jesus' life is leading him towards the cross. He's only hours away from the cross. And it says he goes to the Garden of Gethsemane. Interestingly enough, Gethsemane stands for the olive press. In the most pressing, most pressure-filled moment of his life. It says here, starting in Matthew chapter 26, verse 36. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, sit here while I go over there and pray. He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, my Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. You know, Jesus, he was called to a moment in his life that he really, in his heart of hearts, kind of shocking in a way, longed to get out of. He longed in his humanity. He longed for it. And he goes and it says he's sorrowful to the point, he says, I'm sorrowful to the point of death. My soul is. And on this day, he is asked to drink a cup that he is not prepared emotionally yet to drink. Many of us are called to drink a cup that we're not fully prepared to drink. And there are several aspects to this cup that I want to highlight today. There's first being, it is a cup of suffering. Suffering is quite a challenge for you and me. We're not expecting it. It's not really our view of what Christianity is meant to be. Jesus is feeling great suffering. It says he was sorrowful and troubled. He said, my soul's overwhelmed. And then he calls to his friends, stay here. Keep watch with me. He's trying to rally his friends saying, I need your help today. Stay with me. Help me. He said, my Father, if it's possible, take this cup from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. Many of us, all of us really, at some point in our life, are asked to drink the cup of suffering. How you choose to handle that says much about how your faith will go for the balance of your life. How you respond to the cup of suffering. Jesus here was asked to drink the cup. You know, you think about the cup that he was asked to drink. He was asked to drink the cup of loneliness. You know, as his friends abandoned him here, as he tried to rally for support, and yet received none. That was a lonely hour. I know for some of us today, we are asked to drink the cup of loneliness. Some of us, our relationships haven't worked out the way we would have wanted. We don't have that significant person in our life that we'd like from a romantic standpoint. We don't sometimes have the friends that we'd like. We feel like Jesus at times drinking the cup of loneliness. He was asked to drink the cup of physical suffering. He suffered greatly this day. And I know that for some of us here today that chronic pain is something that's just a normal part of our everyday life. You know, a few weeks ago, Kim Reed, Chris and Kim came and visited our services. He is the evangelist, and they are the Evangelist Women's Ministry leader in Stockholm. And they came over to our house afterwards, and many of you remember Chris speaking. And as I was at our house speaking with Chris and Kim, she shared with me her story about how having rheumatoid arthritis, that she's pretty much in chronic pain. In addition, during the wintertime, it's only light in Stockholm from 10 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. And so it's dark 20 hours a day. In addition to that, gasoline is like $8 a gallon. And, it's pretty far north. They ride their bicycle, like, everywhere. They're just riding their bicycle. I said, Chris, how do you do that? He says, well, I just put snow tires on it. I just ride my bike anyway. In a snowstorm, When it's dark, when it's dark. In addition to that, both their children are here two of their children are here in the United States. As I was talking to Kim, it struck me how she is a person who's been asked to drink the cup of physical suffering for the sake of the people of Sweden. I thought to myself, what a great example. Some of us are asked to drink the cup like Jesus was this day of death and loss. Mark Hoyle, normally our worship leader, is not here today because a close friend of his, Bruce Matthews, died last week in a tragic accident. 42 years old. His wife, 2 young children, one of them special needs. And I thought to myself, what a tough, super, super tough day yesterday was for them. As they're burying their father, their husband, their friend, asked to drink a cup that they cannot understand. The cup of death. The cup of profound loss. Some of us, like Jesus, drink the cup of unfair criticism, trying to be a Christian in our workplace, at school, where we're accused of things and criticized in a way that we don't think is fair. Some of us feel that as we try to lead people. We feel the sting of unfair criticism. Now, I'm not speaking about myself there. I'm not trying to throw a zinger or anything. Some of us drink the cup of broken dreams and hopes, not seeing my life going this way. Jesus on this day is asked to drink the cup of suffering. And it's a tough cup. And at some point in our lives, every single person in here, as a true disciple of Jesus, will be asked to drink the cup of suffering. How do you respond to it? How do you deal with it? Jesus, when he cries out here, he cries out and says, Abba, Father. That's the way it reads in the Greek there. Abba, Father. If it's possible, may this cup be taken from me. He acknowledges 2 facts about God there. The first fact is God is my Father. And by saying that, he's saying God's good. God's a Father. God listens. God cares. God wants to hear what I have to say. God loves me. He's acknowledging that. He knows that as I cry out, it's Abba, Father. God, you see me. You hear me. You care about me. And yet you're still allowing me to go through this. And then he said, God, I know that all things are possible for you. And that if you want to, you can change this circumstance. And that's the fact that God is sovereign. God's in control of all things. And so, we face these tough situations in our life. And we're trying to hang on to the fact that God is good and God is sovereign. Both. So Jesus praying that way, he says, God, I know you're good. I also know you're sovereign. You hear me. Lauren is here today. I'm going to have to tell a story about Lauren. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were here today. I make a point not to do this, but she didn't tell me she's showing up today, so too bad. When Lauren was a little girl, she got a urinary tract infection. And, sorry, Lauren. You might not even remember that. She got a urinary tract infection, and we were part of Kaiser Permanente Health System. And we'd gotten so in the habit of taking our kids there, and them going, nothing's wrong, go home. And sat 3 hours, everything's fine, go home. So we kind of got in a bad habit of not going to the doctor as fast as we should. So by the time we took Lauren to the doctor, she was pretty sick. And so they had to take this big needle about this long and stick it down into her sort of abdomen area here and sort of inject medicine. And they said, you guys are going to have to step outside for this. It wouldn't even let Suzanne and I stay in the room. We're like, what? It's like, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And so while we were standing on the hallway, they did this. And Lauren screams out, Mama! It was like, man, we were both like teary-eyed looking at each other. And I sort of visualized Jesus kind of crying out for his Father. Father, help me. Can you take this from me? And isn't that what we do when it's a hard times hit in our life? We cry out to God, Father, can you take this from me? Like going down the stream for me down the Arkansas River. Is there any way out of this? Can I get out of this as I'm called upon to drink the cup of suffering? And we are so challenged at moments like that to believe that God is both sovereign and God is good. Both. God could change this if He willed it to be, but He doesn't will it to be. But He's still good. He still wants to hear my prayers. I find in myself that I have a hard time praying at times like that. You know, a few years ago, I've shared this story with many of you, but you know, Suzanne and I had decided to get out, leave the ministry. We were leaving the church in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And it kind of went through this big, kind of difficult time and had all these public meetings, and both our kids were in high school. And we just felt like it's the best to leave the ministry. And so we did. And so we came back here, but it was such a difficult time in our faith. And, you know, I felt like, wow, I've sort of lost my profession. I've lost my home. I've lost my community. I've lost my friends. And I got back here, and then it's like really financially a struggle to get going. So, man, our credit rating, I've kind of lost my credit rating too. And that's no good. But then after a few months back here, my father died. And so I was like, gosh, could it get any worse? Is there anything else that could go wrong? Is there anything else that's going to happen to me? Is it enough that all this happened and I also have to lose my father too? And I remember feeling that and just going, gosh, and during that period of time, I went about 2 months where I couldn't even read the Bible. I'd pick up the Bible and I'd be like, ugh, that's just painful. And I'd try to pray, but in my heart, I'm like, is God good? Does God want to hear me? Could this possibly be under God's control? And that's really the struggle that we go through. Is God good? Is God sovereign? And Jesus, that's where He's praying here. He's saying, Father, you can take this cup from me. Please take it from me. But then He finds another fact, and that is, He's asked and He prays, but not as I will, as you will. And He learns something else about the cup. It is the cup of submitting. Read here with me. Then He returns to His disciples and found them sleeping. Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour, He asked Peter. Watch and pray so that you will not fall in temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away a second time and prayed, My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done. When He came back, He again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So He left them and went away once more and prayed the third time, saying the same thing. 3 times He goes out and He prays. And he reveals something about prayer here, that it's a good thing to go out and really talk to God and tell Him what we honestly think, what we honestly want. God, take this away from me. And that's good. And it's okay to take time. He's at this all night long. And you get a sense of what it means to really be going through something super tough. He's just throwing himself before the Lord. He throws himself down, face down, calling out to God. It's kind of a shocking thing to see him do this. Just throwing himself before the Lord, praying about it. You know, when we go through hard things, it's a good thing to express how we really feel. It's a good thing to take time to figure things out. That's good. It's a good thing to express what we really want in life. Father, please take the cup of loneliness from me. Let me find that person. Father, take the cup of financial distress from me. Help this job thing work out. I can't believe I got laid off again. God, please help my children. Take this cup from me. The cup of temptation, take it from me. It's good to express what we really want in life, because I believe God really wants to know. Many, many times, the answer to that prayer is, I will do those things for you. You've prayed to me, as I talked about last week, God, rely on God's goodness. He does want to answer those things. He does want to help with those things. Father, take this chronic pain from me. Take the suffering that I'm going through from me. Take these struggles in my marriage from me. But sometimes His answer is no. That's the answer. No. Or not now, or not for a long time, or maybe never. And when we go through that, we begin to experience a faith crisis. If we're the kind of people that we just feel in our mind, this is the way my life's supposed to look. I'm supposed to have this in my life. I'm supposed to have financial security. I'm supposed to have this great person in my life. I'm supposed to have these great friends in my life. I'm supposed to be healthy. God's supposed to help my spouse get well. God's supposed to take care of these things. If that's what we really feel, then we arrive at a faith crisis. We arrive at a point where we're going to either develop true, authentic faith and a true, authentic walk with God, or we're going to have counterfeit faith and a false sense. See, it's a false sense that God will always make me happy. That's false. It's a false sense that there isn't some very real suffering to endure in this world. That's false. It's a false sense of God that life sometimes isn't very disappointing and very hard. That's false. That just isn't the way that it is. It's false that God's always going to say yes. If God didn't say yes to Jesus on these things, will He always say yes to you and me? He won't. There is this sort of false Christianity that floats around, and sometimes we get swept into it, that I'm not supposed to suffer. I'm not supposed to go through hard things. I'm not supposed to have it difficult. That's false. That's not true Christianity. That's not a true, authentic relationship with God. Ultimately, God says, I will work my will in your life. And Jesus 3 times says, not what I will, but what you will. Let that be done. We have to get to that point spiritually to have a true relationship with God. We have to be able to say, as you will in my life, God, I want you to work in my life. Charles Spurgeon had a great statement. He said this: on the wall of his bedroom, Charles Spurgeon had a plaque with Isaiah 48:10 on it. I've chosen thee in the furnace of affliction. It is no mean thing to be chosen of God, he wrote. God's choice makes chosen men choice men. We are chosen not in the palace, but in the furnace. In the furnace, beauty is marred. Fashion is destroyed. Strength is melted. Glory is consumed. Yet here eternal love reveals its secrets and declares its choice. It isn't always going to go great. That's not really the way that it works. Jesus drank the cup of submission. He yielded. God, work your will in my life. Do what you would have. Do what you would do. Use me the way you want to use me. Make me into the person you want me to be. Use me in this circumstance the way you want to use me. That's authentic faith. Authentic faith is allowed to be led down a road of suffering. There's a lady named Joni Eareckson Tada. Many of you might have heard of her before. She was injured in a diving accident when she was 17. And she spent her whole life as a quadriplegic. And recently she wrote a book entitled The Place of Healing. And so the interviewer in Time magazine asked her this question. He said, how are you feeling? She said, cancer and chronic pain on top of quadriplegia is a little challenging. Yeah. Right now I'm tired because she has cancer. Right now I'm tired from the chemotherapy. And that coupled with the pain makes it difficult. At times I thought, Lord, this is an awful lot to bear. Are you sure you know what you're doing? And yet I know the answer. And what she goes on to share, she says, if I had been granted a miraculous physical healing back when I was 17, I know I wouldn't be in a ministry serving other people with disabilities around the world. So when you work with people in great pain, they ask her, do you encourage them to let go of the desire to be healed? She says, I don't really do that. She says, but I have been healed. She said, I've been healed in spirit. I've been blessed with a type of peace and contentment and joy and purpose that I never would have had if this accident hadn't happened. She really understands drinking the cup of submission. She has submitted, this is God's will for my life. This is God's plan for me. This is where God's leading me. And so she simply chose to accept it and to humble herself in that way. You know, most people who are used for something significant in this world, if you sit down and talk to them, have undergone great suffering of some kind. There's been a transformative period in their life where God chose to lead them down this road of suffering. That's what God was doing with Jesus. He was calling on Him, but Jesus struggled with it. He prayed 3 times. He prayed all night, God, get me ready to handle this. That's the type of prayers we need to learn to develop in our life. Learning how to drink the cup of submission. I said, let me walk in the field. God said, nay, walk in the town. I said, there are no flowers there. He said, no flowers but a crown. I said, but the sky is black. There's nothing but noise and din. But He wept as He sent me back. There is more, He said. There is sin. I said, but the air is thick and the fogs are veiling the sun. He answered, yet souls are sick and souls in the dark undone. I said, I shall miss the light and friends will miss me, they say. He answered, choose tonight if I'm to miss you or they. I pleaded for time to be given. He said, is it hard to decide? It will not seem hard in heaven to have followed the steps of your guide. I cast one look at the fields and set my face to the town. He said, my child, do you yield? Will you leave the flowers for the crown? Then into his hand went mine, and into my heart came he. And I walk in a light divine, the path I had feared to see. Allow God to call you the direction He wants to call you. Drink the cup of submission. Let Him work His will. But then finally, Jesus discovered something about the cup of strengthening. Listen to what it says here. Turn back to Matthew chapter 26. Then He returned to the disciples. After he had prayed all night and He had pleaded with them, He returned to the disciples and He said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayers. Jesus prayed all night. Jesus was struggling. Jesus needed His friends. Jesus went to His friends and said, watch with me. And He makes this prophetic statement. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Pray so you do not fall into temptation. He was saying that to Peter, James, and John. He was also saying that to Himself. He was human too. All of them were human. All of them subject to the same thing. The spirit is willing. The flesh is weak. Often we want to do the right thing in our hearts. Often we want to follow the Bible. Often we want to grow. Often we want to make a difference in people's lives. Often we want to do what's right. They wanted to do what's right. They wanted to be a good friend to Jesus. They wanted to stay up with Him. They wanted to help Him. They loved Him. They cared about Him. They fell asleep anyway. The spirit was willing. Their flesh was weak. Jesus' flesh was weak too. With all that was in Him, He wanted to say no to this assignment. I don't want to drink this cup. I don't want to drink the cup of physical suffering. I don't want to drink the cup of sorrow and loss. And worst of all, I don't want to drink the cup of God's wrath. That's the worst part of it. You and me can go through suffering with a close relationship with God. You and me can go through suffering without a sense of condemnation, with a sense that God is for us. God is my Father. But He knew, and this is kind of a prophecy from the Old Testament, He knew God is going to pour the cup of His wrath down on me. I'm going to feel the judgment of God. I'm going to become sin. I'm going to suffer. My prayers won't be answered because I won't be close to God anymore. I won't be near God. I will be rejected and judged and lost. He's saying, this is too much. He was struggling with his humanity, struggling to do the right thing. The spirit was willing. The flesh was weak. You and me, our flesh is weak. We give way to temptation. Things we should never do. We don't do what we should do oftentimes. We fall into sin. We don't come through. We're like these guys. We don't come through for our friends the way we ought to. We don't fall through on what we know to be right, even though we want to. The flesh is weak. And yet we see by the end of this evening, for Jesus, the flesh is no longer weak. Listen to what he says there. Rise! Let us go! Here comes my betrayer. Never again does he show this kind of weakness. He's ready. He goes with Pontius Pilate. He's ready. He stands there strong. He goes to the cross. He's ready. He forgives them. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. He's forgiving. He's strong. He lays his life down in strength. He voluntarily does the right thing. His flesh has been strengthened. He's done the right thing. How about you? Will you drink the cup of strengthening? Sometimes in our lives, we don't want to hear the challenges of the Bible anymore because we're like, man, I'm overwhelmed. I've had enough. Why don't you just stop saying all that stuff? How about you ease it up a little bit? How about a 25-week series on grace? How about we launch that next week? And I get that because I feel that a lot of times. Problem is when we're like that, is we're not finding the strength of God through prayer. We're not wrestling in prayer like Jesus did. When's the last time you went out and prayed all night about one of your weaknesses? When's the last time you prayed all night that God would make you into the person that you're supposed to be? He would raise you up. He'd make you the father, the mother, the friend, the disciple, the worker, the co-worker that you're supposed to be. That you'd be able to drink the cup of strengthening. Jesus was strengthened to be what he's supposed to be. On this day, God called him to drink the cup. It was a cup of suffering. It was a great challenge as to whether God is sovereign and God is good. He was asked to drink the cup of submitting, to do what God wanted him to do and to be what God wanted him to be. And finally, he drank the cup of strengthening as he found strength in the Lord to be what he was supposed to be. I'll close today with the words. This is the words from a Confederate soldier that he wrote out on the battlefield, finding strength in God. And with this, we'll close the lesson. I ask God for strength that I might achieve. I was made weak that I might learn humbly to obey. I ask God for health that I might do greater things. I was given infirmity that I might do better things. I ask for riches that I might be happy. I was given poverty that I might be wise. I ask for power that I might have the praise of men. I was given weakness that I might feel the need of God. I ask for all things that I might enjoy life. I was given life that I might enjoy all things. I got nothing that I asked for, but everything I had hoped for. Almost despite of myself, my unspoken prayers were answered. I am among all men most richly blessed. Amen. God bless you.
Amen. Thanks. Man, we